So while it is still very early on in training camp, there are a few things going on with the Chicago Bears that has me a little concerned based on the offense's struggles early on so far, combined with injuries and the division that they are in. It's safe to say Bears fans have to be at least a little stressed out about how things have started out, and in today's video, I'll break that entire situation down, look at the crisis avoided by the Jets as their QB1 was carted off during practice, address some hype from a couple of players who quote-unquote disappointed last season, and more right after.
Cold breaks the huddle, huddle, huddle. Cold breaks the huddle.
All right, first up, it appears the Jets may have avoided a serious injury today with quarterback Justin Fields. At first, everybody feared the worst because of the initial reporting on this. The first reports that came out, like this one from Adam Schefter, for example, said Jets QB Justin Fields was carted to the locker room with an apparent lower leg injury. So, of course, everyone feared the worst because lower leg injury and carted off are not two things you want to hear in the same sentence, especially about your team's QB1. Well, it turns out what really happened is something to the effect of Fields went down, yes, but he got up and walked over to the cart. They took him off the practice field, and he was seen getting off the cart under his own power and walking somewhat gingerly back to the facility. As far as what caused him to go down in the first place, head coach Aaron Glenn told the media that he believes somebody actually stepped on a toe, one of those toes on his right foot. Apparently, said toe got dislocated, but there was no fracture, and we do know that it wasn't the big toe, so that is definitely good. That's the initial diagnosis at least, but he will undergo some more testing, and we'll have some more answers here soon, I'm sure. And while a toe dislocation is not ideal, it's a heck of a lot better than what some people were feeling it could have been. Jets fans were probably having flashbacks to Aaron Rodgers tearing his Achilles week 1 of the 2023 season, but thankfully, it appears crisis was averted, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here, but I think Fields will miss a bit of time here during camp, though he should be good to go for the regular season. Mike Garafolo said that seems to be the vibe, at least around the Jets building right now, that Fields will be ready to start week 1. Hopefully that is the case, because if not, it's Tyrod Taylor as their starter, but even bigger than that, they open the season against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I need to see Justin Fields and Aaron Rodgers both going against their former teams. Please and thank you. Now, unfortunately, Justin is not the first camp injury we've seen, and he will not be the last, but a scary one that happened yesterday was when Dolphins offensive lineman Bayron Matos collided with a teammate, and he reportedly suffered a loss of feeling to the right side of his body. He was then emergency airlifted to a hospital, and as of last night, that's really all we knew, but we got a great update from the Dolphins this morning, who posted on X saying that Bayron has movement in all of his extremities and is in stable condition. They went on to say that he'll remain in the care of doctors for continued observation, but overall, that is a very positive update from the Dolphins. Now, on top of Matos, Dolphins corner Artie Burns went down with a knee injury during practice yesterday, and earlier this afternoon, we learned what we feared from Adam Schefter, that he did indeed tear his ACL. The Dolphins were anticipating that news, and they went out and signed cornerback Cornell Armstrong, a guy they actually drafted back in 2018. Armstrong has been a bit of a journeyman, though, playing for the Texans, Falcons, and had a stint with the Raiders during training camp a couple years back. Believe it or not, though, that was the last we've seen of him in the NFL. He hasn't been on an actual 53-man roster since 2022, and when he was, it was mostly as a special teamer. So honestly, even after this signing, they could possibly still use even more help in the secondary, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them bring in another vet in the coming days. Either way, hopefully Artie Burns makes a full recovery with that ACL. Someone else who's looking pretty scary, but in a good way, is Marvin Harrison Jr., who reportedly put on over 10 pounds in the offseason. You can see him here going through individual drills at camp, and he definitely looks bigger than he was last year. Harrison said he feels faster, more powerful, and stronger. His rookie season was seen as a little bit of a disappointment, but only because expectations for him were sky high after being drafted 4th overall. On 116 targets, he caught just 62 of them, which is a pretty low amount for that volume. For comparison's sake, Ladd McConkey had 4 less targets than Harrison did, yet finished with 20 more receptions than him on the year. His average depth of target was definitely less than Marvin Harrison Jr.'s was, but still, that's a pretty stark comparison. On the surface, his numbers weren't awful. He did rack up nearly 900 yards and 8 touchdowns. That's pretty fantastic for a rookie receiver, but in spite of that, he still only finished 5th in receiving yards among rookies last year, despite playing in all 17 games. So hopefully the added weight plus another offseason offseason building chemistry with Kyler Murray does him some good because he has the potential to be a special player in this league for a long time. Marv is not the only bird with a weight change, though, as Eagles defensive tackle Jordan Davis said he's down a whopping 26 pounds from last year. Right now, he's at 330, which is the lowest weight of his entire career. He's still the size of a small planet, though, 6'6", 330 pounds is nothing to scoff at, that's for sure. But he said the weight loss has him feeling better and living better, so good for him. Now we'll just have to see how it translates onto the field. The Eagles are counting on him to continue being his dominant self along that D-line, especially after they lost key players like Josh Sweat and Milton Williams in the offseason. In fact, Davis said he was told specifically that they want him playing more this season with those guys gone. So in theory, him being lighter should allow him to stay on the field longer, which is ultimately the goal. On top of Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jordan Davis, another player that could be in for a solid year is Falcons tight end Kyle Pitts. I mean, maybe. We do this every year, talking ourselves into some Kyle Pitts hype, but Falcons quarterback Michael Penix is trying to get us to believe.
Got KP the ball today. There's going to be a lot of that.
Well, I do like the sound of that, and Penix went on to say that the two of them are actually golfing buddies. Don't know why I did that, and connected a lot off the field, which he believes will help their connection on the field. And that connection was looking pretty good today, as you can see this clip of the two hooking up for a big gain during practice. Maria Martin covers the Falcons, and she said she was very impressed with Kyle Pitts on day one, adding that he stood out in both practices in his post-practice interviews. Apparently, he started the day by working with the wide receivers during individual periods. Then during drills, he was moving all over the place, showing off his versatility. On the surface, if you looked at Pitts' numbers, you would think he was at least an average receiving tight end, as he's topped 600 yards every season that he's been healthy. But just like Marvin Harrison Jr., he's always going to be compared to his draft spot. After all, he was the highest drafted tight end in NFL history when Atlanta took him 4th overall back in 2021. Last season, he finished 13th in yards amongst all tight ends, and he was 11th the year before. However, if he can get closer to the production from his rookie year when he topped 1,000 yards, I think most Falcons fans would be pretty happy with that. Pitts is also heading into the final year of his rookie deal, and his name was floated out in trade talks earlier this offseason, which obviously never materialized. So if he does hope to stick around in ATL, he's going to need to have himself one heck of a season, which is something that I am personally rooting for. Now, speaking of tight ends, Noah Fant is visiting with the Cincinnati Bengals today. The Seahawks released him earlier this week in a move that saved them around $9 million. Plus, they've got some young tight ends on the roster that they're excited about, so they felt comfortable moving on. For the Bengals, they've got Mike Gesicki as their number one tight end, who just re-signed to a 3-year deal this offseason, so Fant would likely fit in behind him as the number 2, and honestly, that would be a very solid 1-2 punch there in the tight end room. We'll see what comes of the visit today, but he does reportedly have interest from multiple teams, and if I'm Fant, I might want to go to a team that doesn't have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Mike Gesicki in front of me on the pecking order. But they do have a great offense. Joe Burrow's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and if someone happens to go down due to injury, something I never wish upon anyone, but happens quite frequently in this violent sport, Fant could find himself getting looked at more often. Next up, the Giants are rewarding one of their best defenders with a potential bump in pay. Dexter Lawrence is reportedly getting $3 million in incentives added to his current deal for the 2025 season. He was previously set to make $17 million this year, which makes him vastly underpaid, especially coming off the season he just had. Despite missing 5 games with an elbow injury, he finished with 9 sacks, which was a career high, so the chance to even earn an additional $3 million is very well deserved, and even if he hits it, paying $20 million for arguably one of the best defensive tackles in the game is one heck of a steal for the Giants. Then in some wide receiver news, Bears rookie Luther Burden III missed practice yet again with a hamstring injury that he's been dealing with for most of the offseason. Ben Johnson spoke on it today and described it as a lingering injury, which sadly does concern me. Lingering soft tissue injuries can take forever to heal from because they can be re-aggravated almost completely at random. Johnson said that Luther will be day-to-day because of that, but the fact that he's been dealing with this hammy for over 2 months now is a bit of a red flag in my eyes. So hopefully he's able to get out on the field sooner rather than later, because the Bears have high hopes for him in this offense with all the other weapons they have. And if you look at their offense, they do have a lot of weapons. DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, Cole Kmet. They just drafted Colston Loveland. They've got all kinds of pieces, retooled the O-line. You've got Joe Tooney. You traded for Jonah Jackson as well, I believe. So yes, They have the pieces, but yesterday, Ben Johnson kind of laid the hammer down, took the first team offense on the field during the team portion when they really struggled multiple plays. Well, if that wasn't enough, Zach Pearson, who covers the Bears for a living, look at his last note on their practice today. First team offense had a pretty ugly 11-on-11 drill early on. This is 2 days in a row now. And this featured a Grady Jarrett pressure. They had to reset to get rehuddled, a bad snap over Caleb Williams' shoulder. He then says INC, but I think he means an INT, and then a scramble that saw Williams fall down while trying to escape. This guy even asked, you said early on for the 11v11. Did they get better a little later? And Zach said, not really. So combine all that going on right now with the fact that they are in the same division as the Lions, Packers, and Vikings. 3 of those teams last year made the playoffs. Things are not off to a great start. I'm not trying to overplay everything going on this early. They've got time to get into sync, get into rhythm. Ben Johnson's new there. Caleb's dealing with all things new. The entire offense is, to be honest, and they retooled that O-line. So they're working through a lot of growing pains, to say the least, but it is at least a little bit concerning given the fact that they've had 2 pretty rough days in a row so far. But let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below. Are you worried about the Bears given the division that they're in and how they're starting out so far, combined with the Luther Burden injury, or nah? And then the 49ers made a move at receiver today, signing Quintez Cephus to a 1-year deal. Cephus spent last year on the Rams practice squad and has played for 4 teams since being drafted back in 2020. He could just be a camp body, but that's something they need right now as they just lost another wide receiver to injury yesterday. Jacob Cowing reportedly tweaked his hamstring during practice, so he's expected to miss a chunk of time. Then Ricky Pearsall is also working back from a hamstring himself, although according to Kyle Shanahan, he should be back any day now. But on top of that, Brandon Ayuk has no timeline to return from that ACL and MCL injury he's working back from. Then they obviously traded away Deebo Samuel to the Commanders. All that to say, they need all the help they can get right now, even if it's just for some depth at camp. One good thing San Fran has going for them right now, at least, is Jawan Jennings, who previously said he would ask to be traded if he didn't get a contract extension by training camp. Well, he did report to camp and is also not holding in, so good news for 49ers fans who could finally maybe breathe a sigh of relief. Kyle Shanahan said yesterday that Jawan's been a hell of a player for them for a while, one of their leaders too. He had a good practice yesterday and it was great to have him back out there. Anyway, that's going to be all for today, and with that, I'll see y'all next time.
All breaks the huddle, huddle.